Doing a little test here on a Saturday evening, so bear with me. I don't have anything prepared here, but I just want to test out and see if this will work, because we would like to be able to stream live to YouTube and to Facebook and to Periscope so that you can see the show live wherever it's more convenient to you. So I kind of did this earlier today. That's why you got some of those crazy Twitter messages where there was no actual video there. So I just want to try this out and see if it'll work. So let's go check out Periscope. Check out our Periscope page and see if that's on. Hopefully it is. It says it's connecting. Okay. Very cool. Looks like there's actually some people watching too. Very nice. Hey, everybody. Let me know if you can see me, if you can hear me, if everything sounds good. I'd like to get a little bit of feedback from all the different channels here. Also, let me know if you can hear the music. Hopefully you can hear the music. We're trying to up the production value here so you can hear the music while we record. Okay, so I played that, so I'll be able to listen to that. Okay, so Periscope is working. Facebook Live looks like it's working. Cool. Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate that. Let me double check the Assembly Call homepage and make sure YouTube is working. And if this works, I think we have a way to stream live on all three. I think this is going to work. Nice. YouTube's on. Good stuff. All right, the music all sounds good. Very nice. We'll play a couple of fun drops from Ryan here.
I've never changed a diaper in my life. You can be wrong. That's fine. I think Archie could find room for both.
We're going to have fun with some of those. All right, this is great. This is great. All right, so everybody can hear and see. And now the hard part is going to be trying to keep track of the comments on all the different places, but I'm glad everybody can see it. This is cool. It's taken me a while to figure out the best way to do this, but I'm glad. Now we'll have to do a test with other people here, and I'll have to get my audio settings right on my end, but it looks like from a broadcast perspective, everything is looking good. Very cool. Very cool. I appreciate y'all coming and bearing with me today while we tried some of this out. It's nice to have a very understanding audience that will indulge us in these tests. Awesome. I get. All right, cool. Well, shoot. If anybody has questions while I'm here, I can take some questions tonight. If you have them, I'll hang around for a couple of minutes here. I want to at least make it worth your while. Coming here, and I'm excited about some of the new audio stuff that we're going to be able to do. Some of the songs. I don't want to spoil some of the intro songs that I have for Ryan, so I will resist the urge to play you some of those songs. But just know they're good, and you will enjoy them when they come. I'm excited about those. And Andy's song. This is the song that we debuted for Andy, the intro music that we debuted for him. You know, bottoms up. We got a few more for him too, so there will be much more than that. All right. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's see. Brent says, have you heard anything about IU and UK playing this upcoming season? UK fans at work say that Matt Jones is reporting it. I haven't heard anything specific about the IU Kentucky series getting going again, except just a few kind of random whispers that people are talking about it. So I don't know really anything beyond that. I'm obviously, like the rest of us, very hopeful that it'll happen. And it certainly seems like with the relationship that Calipari and that Archie have, that they'll be able to get something done. And I don't know about you guys, but I just don't care about Kentucky playing a game in Indianapolis. Like, I feel like that was a non-starter, having them come up and play in Indianapolis. I don't really see why that's that big of a deal. Like, do a 4-year rotation where you play in Indianapolis, and then maybe you play, in Louisville or something like that, and then you do a home and home between the two. I think that's fine. Even if it was just at neutral sites, I mean, that wouldn't be my druthers. I think games like that should be played in home arenas because the atmosphere is better, but I just think college basketball is better, and certainly college basketball in Indiana and in this region is better when Indiana and Kentucky are playing every season. So make it happen, whatever needs to happen. I guess I just, with Archie and with how confident I am in his ability to recruit and how confident I am in Indiana's ability to get the best players in the state consistently when the program is good, I'm just not that worried about, Kentucky getting a big recruiting advantage from playing one game every 4 years or every 2 years in Indianapolis. I mean, Kentucky's already a powerhouse program, and they're going to get their fair share of great recruits. So I've never quite understood that, and maybe there's more to it than that. But to me, I don't know. That argument has never held a ton of water. So good question there, Brent. Thank you. If there are any others, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, we'll close up shop. Very happy that this test worked, and then we'll look. I'm going to look to do. You may see one more test pop up when I can get someone on the Zoom with me. So we'll do that, and then I do need to test one more thing. I need to test the audio recording here. Okay, so test. Got to test my local recording. So we'll probably do one more test at some point before Thursday, but then hopefully, if it goes well, then we can broadcast. We can start broadcasting like this regularly. Tony says, I heard Romeo will stay 2 years wherever he goes. I read a couple of things about that. I think it was on the Peegs message board. I read something about Romeo staying 2 years. I guess here would be my response to talk right now about Romeo staying 2 years.
Noah was on a 2-year plan.
Yeah. Ryan's infamous claim that Noah Vonleh was on a 2-year plan. And maybe he was, but I think my expectation is certainly that, Romeo's goal is going to be to go to the NBA. And I think there was a comment that he said, I don't know if it was in the Evan Daniels piece, but it was in a recent article that I read about him where he was saying, and it was a direct quote from him, that, this is one of the most important decisions of his life, because he's going to be choosing where he's going to be spending the next several months. Several months, right? Not 4 years, not the next few years. The quote just came off to me like a guy who sounds like he's assuming he's going to be a one and done. And I don't take that at all to be cockiness or arrogance or anything. I mean, I think if you just look at it, when you're a top 5 recruit these days, and especially when you're as polished a player as him, that's the difference. Sometimes you get guys that are really highly rated recruits, and they're freak athletes, but maybe their basketball skills need to catch up, so maybe they need a couple of years. But Romeo is a great athlete and a very polished player. So he certainly has things that he's going to need to improve on. But sounds like his expectation is to stay 1 year. I certainly think that he's only going to be 1 year in college. And if he comes in and is anywhere close to what Eric Gordon was as a freshman, why on earth would he stay for a second year? Like, I just don't see the reason why. You can always go back to school, and you avoid the risk of injury. And plus, it's a status thing now for guys coming out that are top 5, top 10 picks to be a one and done. So I saw some of those whispers too. I don't really put much stock into them. I think the only way that Romeo stays for 2 years would be things that you don't want to happen. He gets an injury. He comes in and just, plays so far below what we would expect him to play. Those kinds of things. And, none of us would want that. Even if the reward is the second year of Romeo, if he has to get injured to do it, or he's not as good as we think he is to do it, no one's going to want that. So I think Romeo comes, your ideal is he has a fantastic first year. The team is as good as humanly possible, and he goes on to the NBA to have a great career like Eric Gordon is a great ambassador for the University of Indiana and all of the other things that will come from him coming. So, yeah, I saw that. I'm just not really buying it. IU 2714 says that the coverage of Romeo has been relentless so much for so long, ready for it to be over. I agree. I'm ready for it to be over because I want to know where he's going to go, in part because it makes trying to project for next year difficult, because that is the next domino that needs to fall. Obviously, figuring out what Juwan's going to do is going to be important as well. But figuring out where Romeo goes then is going to give Indiana direction for, what they need to do from a grad transfer perspective. Because if Romeo doesn't come, we have got to get backcourt scoring. I mean, this team needs guards. I mean, we just need bodies more than anything. I mean, even if, worst case scenario, we just get someone who can competently handle the basketball. We only have 3 guards on the roster right now. So, that's why we have to figure that out. And yeah, at a certain point, it becomes the same story kind of over and over again. So there's not much new, although I thought Bleacher Report had a really nice article about Romeo this week. So for that reason, I agree with you, kind of ready for it to be over. But I don't, I don't think that the coverage has been bad. I think there have been, good, interesting stories. I think there have been unique takes. I suppose, why some people might be frustrated with the family saying the same thing over and over again. But I think that's just placing unfair expectations on them. Like, I think the Langford family has handled this very, very well. They've been pretty straightforward the whole time. Now, their timetable hasn't been as accelerated as we would have liked, but that's their timetable. So I don't fault them for any of that. And, now they're going to have time to sit down and, really, hash out the decision. And, so I think they knew that they held all the cards in this, and I think they've done a fine job. And I think they've done a pretty nice job of keeping everybody informed. So I think maybe with some recruitments it could be annoying, but I haven't really felt that way. And I think it's a credit to some of the media members who have found ways to get some interesting takes on it. So I think now if it were to drag out way longer than April, then yeah, I could see it starting to get annoying, but I haven't really felt that. I'm just ready for it to be over, because I'm really excited to see what he chooses. And I'm excited to either be disappointed if he doesn't choose Indiana, or really excited to start breaking down all the lineup possibilities with Romeo in it, because that's going to be really fun. Certainly could see him as third-ranked player in the nation with, Bol and Zion Williamson. I mean, I haven't seen those guys play, obviously, but from everything I read, they're phenomenal players. Was I planning on doing commentary during my test? I was prepared to do it. I wasn't necessarily planning on doing it because it's Saturday night. It's 9:00. I wasn't sure if anybody was going to be watching, but I did want to be prepared that if people were here, and you guys are awesome for being here, that I was able to give you something worthwhile besides just testing out this system, and luckily the test worked. Outside of Romeo Langford, kids coming in the next few years makes the future look bright. Romeo is momentary. Yeah, and that's an important point. I think Romeo clearly changes the complexion of next year's team, because he provides us with the single biggest thing that we don't have, and that is a go-to perimeter scorer. We don't have that. Devontae Green is not that outside of brief flashes. Robert Finney is not that yet. Al Durham is not that yet. Jerome Hunter is not that guy. Juwan Morgan is not a perimeter scorer. So someone who can go get a bucket, which we didn't have this year, and Romeo gives us that. So he fills a huge need for next year. And, even more than that, I think he helps signal, like Cody Zeller did, that it's okay to go to Indiana again. This thing is on the rise. I'm going to spend my 1 year here. Does that guarantee that Trace Jackson Davis or Keon Brooks or Trenton Watford or any of these other guys come? No, but it certainly doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have the number 5 player in the country say that he's going to come to Indiana when there's been so much speculation. It's going to be a big deal. And so that's a big thing. And you're right. Romeo being here, it's momentary. It's 1 year. The other guys, Robert Finney and Jerome Hunter and Demezy Anderson and Jake Forrester, Race Thompson, these guys who are going to be young playing their first year next year, a lot of these guys are going to be 3-4 year players. And they're the guys who are going to build, kind of take what Juwan Morgan started last year and start building the foundation for the future. Romeo, I think, accelerates it, and he makes the possibilities for next year better. But either way, you start looking out 2, 3, 4 years with what's already here and the recruits that appear to possibly be on the horizon, and you got to be feeling really good about things. And that's why I don't think Romeo's decision is make or break for Indiana or Archie Miller. I think it has huge ramifications again for next year, and I think it can accelerate things. But he's not going to be a 3 or 4 year player, not even a 2 year player. He's probably going to be a 1 year player, stepping into a roster that is still incomplete even with him. So, it's still, a year or two before Archie's really going to have everything installed. So I agree with you. But it would just be a tremendous bonus if he does come, but I don't think it's devastating in any way. If he doesn't, outside of just, you kind of want something so bad and you wish it was going to happen, that would be disappointing, but it wouldn't be devastating for the program. Any truth to Trace Jackson Davis reclassifying? I haven't heard that. Credit to Peegs. I was on the Peegs message board just kind of reading some stuff earlier today, and I think it was Jeff Rabjohns that was commenting that his father said that's not even possible. Not everybody can reclassify, I guess, unless your name is Marvin Bagley and you're going to go to Duke. But it's difficult. I mean, you have to have enough credits. You have to actually be able to graduate from high school. Unless you've really been planning forward for that, sometimes that can't always happen. And just sounds like that's not a thing for Trace Jackson Davis. But who knows? College basketball is funny like that, and maybe it could happen. But it doesn't sound like it's possible. Yes, Archie with Matt Hurt today. Read a little something about that. Sounded like the visit went well. I don't know. You read the articles about the visits, and I think it's great that guys like Alex, guys like Jeff Rabjohns, write those, and they are fun to read. I don't know how much you can read into them because I've never read one that is bad. I've never read the one that's like, we were expecting this great presentation, and the coach just didn't seem into it. He really didn't, show us, where he saw our son fitting in. It's always pretty great. I think the one thing that maybe you read into that one is for an out-of-state guy, there's a big-time connection to Indiana because of their relationship with Tom Ostrom and because of his relationship with Race Thompson. So it's maybe a little bit different of an out-of-state recruitment because it's not all going to be new to him if he goes to Indiana. So I still think it's an uphill battle because you've got every single blue blood involved there, and he's another guy who's probably a one and done. But hey, look, top 5 player in his class, out-of-state guy, and Indiana's coming off of missing the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, and you're getting in-home visits. Pretty good. I think you got to take that. So got to take that. I think the Big Ten is a few years from a big overhaul. Indiana and Ohio State look poised to be near the top moving forward. I do think there's going to be an overhaul. I think Indiana is going to lead that overhaul. I think it will be interesting to see if Ohio State can. They've certainly got the infrastructure there to be able to do it. Chris Holtman's a good coach. Don't think he's as good as Archie, but he's a good coach. So we'll see if he can do it. Minnesota or Michigan State would seem to be. I mean, they'll still probably be good next year, but they certainly seem to have peaked. Let's put it that way. If they are not already going to be on the decline. I think Purdue's going to be interesting. I think what Purdue does next, can Matt Painter, kind of capitalize on the success that he had recently? They had the big group with the baby boilers, and they kind of fell off some, and now they've gotten back to it. But over the last couple of years, they've lost Swanigan and they've lost Vincent Edwards, and they're losing Vincent Edwards. They're going to lose Dakota Mathias. They're losing Isaac Haas. So they're losing a big part of the infrastructure that built Purdue back up into a Big Ten powerhouse again, into a team that was, top 10, top 15. So does Carson Edwards come back? And is he able to kind of lead the charge next year? And then do their young guys, are they able to be as good? And then is Purdue able to recruit? Can they get a guy like Trace Jackson Davis? Apparently, they've done a lot of work with him. Or are they going to kind of, dip down again and have to reload? I think Matt Painter has proven now, through several different recruiting cycles and some ups and downs, that he's going to be able to get it back. But it'll be interesting to see how consistent they're able to be. Obviously, Michigan, you have to have faith in them and what they're doing. I think they're going to be, a fixture there near the top of the Big Ten. Wisconsin's going to be an interesting one. They have a lot of people back. Will you talk about the Haas STD scandal? All I'm going to say about the Haas STD scandal is, as I was reading that Indianapolis Star piece, I kept looking up to see if it was dated April 1st. And I kept checking my calendar to see if it was April 1st because it read like an April Fool's joke. That is one of the most absurd stories that I have ever read. And it's obviously unfortunate, and it's not something that you really want to laugh at, but it's just absurd. It really does take boiler fail to an all-new level. Okay, these have been awesome on Periscope. Let me see if anything's happening on Facebook here. Will you be doing a show April 30th at 7 o'clock? I wanted to check that. What day of the week is April 30th? April 30th is a Monday. So yes, I already wanted to do one immediately after the announcement. So I imagine that we probably will do one. Megan is waving hello from the tax desk. Hello, Megan. It's good to see you. So yes, we will see if maybe we can get Zach McCride on, who's obviously down there in New Albany. Matt says, can you see my comment? Yes, I can see the comments. I don't know why comments might not be showing up for other people on Facebook. What is your starting five for next year? That's a great question. Obviously, that's going to be dependent on what happens with Romeo and Juwan. We talked about this a little bit on the show. I think Andy and Coach Tonsoni gave their thoughts. I didn't really have as much time to give my thoughts on that question. I think the day one starting five next year, if you made me like gun to head, you've got to just put it down right now and write it in pen. My guess is that it would be Devontae Green, Romeo Langford, Zach McRoberts, Justin Smith, and Juwan Morgan. That's what I think it'll be to start. And the reason why I think that is because Devontae Green is a junior, and I think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt over, Al Durham and Robert Finney, both underclassmen. Romeo is obvious. I think Zach McRoberts is such a tone setter and is a senior and is up to speed on the defense. And I think the guys that you might want to play over him or that you might assume would play over him are all young guys, and I think they'll be catching up. And so I think he's going to have a big leg up there. And plus, if you have a guy like Romeo offensively and you've got Juwan offensively, now you relieve some of the pressure that it kind of puts on your offense when you have a guy like Zach McRoberts out there. And hopefully he looks to shoot more. But I would say him. And then I said Juwan and Justin. And I say that in part because I think the other guys that might be able to play, kind of the five or play the big man role and push Juwan out to the four, I don't know if those guys are going to be ready. I'm really nervous about what we're going to get out of Deron Davis next year, not because I have any inside information, but just because of my general fear about an Achilles injury. And specifically, fear about an Achilles injury for a guy who has had issues with mobility and conditioning. That seems dangerous to me. Now, I saw a workout video where, looked like Deron was in good shape and, he was working hard. So, hopefully he's been just extra motivated and is extra motivated to get out there, play as much as possible and shut people like me up. I'm just being conservative there. And then I think, the other guy, maybe Race Thompson is ready to step in. He's a wild card without having seen him play. It's really hard to project that. I think Jake Forrester is going to play a lot as a freshman. I just get that feeling because he's such an energy guy. And so I think he'll find a role, but I don't think he's going to start day one. And Clifton Moore, I don't know what to expect from him. So I think the day one starting lineup will be Devontae, Romeo, Zach McRoberts, and Justin Smith is obvious. I think you're going to build the lineup. If you've got Romeo Langford and you've got Juwan Morgan, you're building your lineup around Romeo, Juwan, and Justin. No question about it. It's just who's going to be your lead ball handler, and then who is your other big man? Is it going to be, not necessarily your other big man, but who's the other guy? Do you have a big man ready to step in, or are you going to be playing another wing guy and letting Juwan play down low? So it's going to be dependent on matchups as well. Obviously, we know that. So so we'll just have to see. But that's what I would expect. Now, by the end of the year, as guys have had a chance to, to kind of get acclimated, I would not be shocked if Robert Finney is the point guard by the end of the year. But I think the team would be best served by Devontae Green, being a more consistent option. I think all of us are a little doubtful about that happening. We all have high hopes for Devontae, especially the stretch that he had at the end of this year, but we kind of want to see it before we believe it. And, and then I think you've got some interesting options there. I think ideally you don't want to be playing Juwan at the five. So ideally, some combination of Deron and Race and Jake Forrester, mixing and matching depending on what the matchups are, playing there, in the five, guarding big men, so that Juwan has more energy for offense, and doesn't have to just bang down low. Because, as hard as he played last year, his you look at the numbers on Synergy, he was not a very good post defender. It's not that he wasn't a good post defender, but he gave up a lot of points because he was just overmatched in a lot of those matchups. So I think not having to have him essentially just give up buckets because he just has to play with his hands up so he doesn't foul because he's so essential to have on the floor. You'd like to have him maybe be able to be, a little bit more aggressive from a defensive perspective, being able to get blocks on the weak side or, using some of his anticipation, his athletic ability. So I think ideally you're going to see all that. We just have to see how it all plays out. But it's fun. It's really fun to think about, especially if you think about it with Romeo involved in there. Was not an Al fan as a recruit, but he grew on me. Expect him to be a big role player in a few years. That's from IU 27-14. I agree. I think Al Durham is going to play an important role in this team. I think he already plays an important role on this team simply from the standpoint of he's a good brick to help you build your foundation, and you need those guys. Those guys who work hard and have good attitudes and do what the coach asks and really try hard on defense. You need those kinds of guys because they lead by example no matter what. And his example will continue to get more important as he gets older. And as there's, more, guys that come through the program and are looking up to the guys who've already been in the program. It'll be interesting to see how much he can contribute. I think a lot of it is going to depend on his shooting. Al's great strength is that he can really get to the basket. He can really get into the lane. And for a guy as spindly and wispy as he is, he's pretty damn good at getting the ball up on the rim when he draws contact. And the thing goes in a lot of times. And when he does get fouled, he makes his free throws. He's a pretty good free throw shooter. So I think he's got some things to like. And I think he profiles as a pretty good defender once he kind of figures those things out. So, I don't know if he's ever going to be the starting point guard on a team that contends for the Big Ten simply because of those questions about his shooting. But I think he can be a really important rotation player and win some games for you and do some really important things. Kind of like what Remy Abel was, back in 2013. I think he can be a kind of guy like that. But we'll see. And if he can hit 40% from 3-point range and throw all that out, and maybe he can be a starter because I think defensively he's going to be good. And if you can pair really good outside shooting with what he can do getting into the lane, that's going to be great. Do you think Clifton Moore will break out next year? I'm going to say no, just because we just have to see more of it. I mean, the talent is there, but who's he going to guard? That's the big question right now is who does Clifton guard? And if he's not going to guard, then he's got to be really, really good offensively. And is he going to be that good offensively? So we'll see. I think it's really encouraging that we haven't even heard a whisper about, Clifton Moore maybe transferring, given how little he played last year. And I think if he's got that kind of attitude, especially being so far away from home and playing for a coach who didn't recruit him, and if he is that bought in and excited about this, then I think that bodes really well. And that, to me, suggests the attitude of a guy that probably is going to be better than what maybe he looked like as a freshman. So let's see. I mean, that guy's got a ton of talent. And if you told me that he was in the starting lineup by the end of next year and was scoring 10 points a game, it would surprise me, but it wouldn't shock me. We know he's got some of that talent in him. But to say that he's going to break out next year, I'm going to need to see it first. I think a Smith-Morgan front court can be schemed for a season. Also, Morgan won't be expected to carry the offensive load with Langford. You're absolutely right. That's the great part about having Romeo is he takes a lot of that pressure off of Juwan. End of year, I expect Hunter over McRoberts. Yeah, that's what I was going to get to is line up by the end of the season. Again, that lead guard position, I could see it going a lot of different ways, especially if a grad transfer comes in. So that'll be interesting. I do think ideally, if you just look at like what is potentially the best lineup, I think the lineup with the best potential, but that's a tough one too. I think it's Devon. I mean, I think an experienced junior Devontae has better potential for next year than Robert Finney, even though I love Robert's potential long term. But I think if Devontae can get consistent with the experience he has, that's your ideal situation is him playing the point with Romeo, obviously with Justin and Juwan. And then I still think, it's going to be interesting how much of an improvement do Justin and Juwan make from a 3-point shooting perspective? Because if they become consistent 3-point shooters and they can space the floor, now I think it gives you more freedom, to play inside with a guy like maybe Race or Duran or Jake, who aren't necessarily shooters, but can really help you out defensively. Certainly Race and Jake you would expect to. I wonder about Jerome. I think he's got a ton of talent, and I certainly think that you could see an interesting lineup with he, Justin, and Juwan playing together. But I also think he might profile better as a 6th or 7th guy off the bench. But again, I mean, there's so much to see just in terms of you know, how all of this plays out. But that's what makes it fun. It's figuring out these lineup combinations. Archie proved he could win with a smaller lineup at Dayton, so maybe okay. Yeah, if Davis is not 100%, I mean, he could. I think Duran would, just like Romeo, Duran brings a really unique element to the team, which is when he's healthy and playing right and his mind is right, you can dump the ball to him on the block and it's 2 points. I mean, he is really good with his footwork. I thought he showed an increased ability to play through contact last year, better athleticism. And that's a nice bonus to have. Um, Someone just commented, "You look like you pick your burgers, eat them, and flick them on the wall." Nice. Not true. Not true. But I appreciate you saying so. Yeah, and Archie can win with small lineups, and that's again where you start thinking, okay, you know, you want to move Juwan, out of that center position, but then you think, man, you could play a small lineup that has a lot of versatility offensively, and I'm sure that we will see that some next year. So Scott says looks good. Yes, no video delay. That's the big key. I think what was causing the video delay was my external camera, and it just wasn't working well with Google Hangouts. But I think with Zoom, it works a lot better. Juwan is going to the G League. I don't buy it. I think Juwan's coming back. But I will say, I hope Juwan goes. And here's the reason I say that. Because I think if Juwan goes, that means he has either made the decision that he's ready to play professional basketball. And for a guy who's already in his 20s and has been injury prone, if that's his decision and he wants to do that, then I'm excited for him to do it. Or it means that he's gotten really good feedback. And maybe he does think, he'll be able to get a good G League spot and that there are teams that believe in him and that he wants to start that. And I think that'd be fantastic. It lowers the ceiling on what next year's team can do, no question about it. But I always think it's exciting to see a guy make the decision to follow his dreams, like what Troy Williams did, like what James Blackman Jr. did, even though people questioned those at the time, and people would question this one. But selfishly, as an IU fan, I would absolutely love to see him be back. So we'll see. My expectation is that he'll be back, but we'll have to see. If Romeo comes, could Anderson redshirt? Boy, that's a really good question because that's a name, Demezy Anderson, that I haven't even mentioned once as we've been talking about all this lineup stuff. He could, I guess. I mean, I don't know what those conversations have been. I certainly think it would help him because I think Demezy, while he's a really good shooter, has some things, his body, his athleticism, his defense, all of those things, ball handling that could really use some time. And if he's not going to play a lot, I think it'd be great. You look at the example of what some of the guys from Villanova have done redshirting. I think it could help out a lot. So, yeah, if Romeo comes, now your need for Demezy to step right in and be that shooter is lessened because you've got Romeo taking 30 some of those minutes that might have been divvied up to Demezy. So it's a good question. No, they need guards. Yeah, but it's not that Indiana needs guards. This responding to IU 27-14. Indiana needs ball handlers. And Demezy is not a ball handler. Now, Indiana does need shooters. So, it's not like it would be bad to have Romeo and Demezy out there, spacing the floor. And Romeo's a really good player, but it's not like he's going to come in and shoot like Nick Zeisloft. I mean, he's probably going to shoot in the 30%, the 30s in three-point shooting. He's not just a lights-out three-point shooter. So, Demezy, not as good at the other elements of offense, but maybe a little bit better of a three-point shooter than Romeo. So, yeah, I mean, there's some needs that Demezy would fit, but is he going to be able to get on the court with his ball handling and defense right away? I don't know. Other people have seen him play more than me and suggested that's going to be an issue. So I think a lot of guys could benefit from a red shirt, and I think he could. He actually strikes me as the most, if you get Romeo, he strikes me as the guy who would be the most obvious candidate to redshirt if someone were going to. So we'll see. Did Romeo win a state championship this year? He did not. They lost in the semi-state. When did the Saturday show start? We do not usually have a show on Saturday. This was an impromptu show. I was just doing a test. When did Friday show start? There are no Friday shows, no Saturday shows. We go live on Thursday night with our broadcast of Assembly Call Radio. I was just doing a test. Normally we broadcast on YouTube Live, but I figured some things out today, and I think now we're going to be able to broadcast on Periscope, YouTube Live, and Facebook Live all simultaneously, which is really cool. So that schedule is all staying the same. This is just an impromptu thing. Um, let's see. What if Duran is fully healthy? Yeah, I mean, again, we're just gonna have to see if Duran is fully healthy. If he is, I think he's obviously gonna play, and he gives you. That's hard. I struggle to see how he's going to be fully healthy by the beginning of the year. But if he is fully healthy, he's going to play, and I think given his experience, it would not shock me if he opened the season as a starter, especially since, part of Juwan coming back to school is going to be to work on things and do the things that NBA teams want to see. And no NBA team wants to see Juwan Morgan playing the five because he's not going to do that in the NBA. He's not going to be guarding guys in the post, so they're going to want to see him be able to show off his versatility, which he's going to be able to do more if you have a guy like Duran out there. And Duran's a pretty good defensive player when he gets to guard guys in the post. He just is not good guarding screens and playing out in space. Sheila, today's your birthday. Happy birthday. Megan wonders, how do you eat them and then also flip them on the wall? This is in response to the person who accused me of eating my boogers, which was ridiculous. She says that doesn't make sense. You are right, Megan, as you usually are. You're a stickler for details, and I like that. Yeah, Matt says, I watched Anderson play 3 times this year, and he did not shoot well all 3 times. He needs to redshirt. Not a great thing. I think it sounds to me like he's just a streaky shooter. So, we've had some of those guys in the past, and they can be great when they're on, and obviously, when they're not. That's not a good thing. Oh, one thing I do need to check here on the YouTube video. So I think the YouTube video, I had it set as private. Okay, so I'm going to have to fix that. All right, but otherwise, all is good with the streaming. Do you think Juwan will be back? Oh, wait, let me see. Shoot. There's some other questions here on Periscope. Hang on, I got to get a drink real quick. I was not prepared to talk quite so much. But this is awesome. I appreciate you guys asking me all these questions. It's fun to do these. Probably should hop on and do some more of these. How much does Romeo average next year? 16, 17 points is what I would say. I don't think he's going to be as good or as prolific, I guess I should say, as Eric Gordon was as a freshman. He'll be really good. I just don't see him quite on that level because of the physicality that Eric Gordon brought even as a freshman. So I'll say 16, 17. Final ruling on Romeo. My final ruling is that he's coming. But there's a long time between now and April 30th, so a lot could happen. But I would, to me, it seems like all the signs are pointing toward him coming. Romeo's a great player, no doubt. Possibility he could disappoint somewhat. Sure, there's a possibility, but that is as much a function of expectations just being out of this world as anything that he might do. I think you got to be fair with your expectations for Romeo. I mean, I think you look at what Eric Gordon did, and I just compared him to Eric Gordon. That's one of the great freshman seasons that we've seen. Up there with George McGinnis and a few other people. Those might be 2 of the best. So if he can even enter that conversation, he would have had a fantastic season. But he could disappoint. If he doesn't shoot as well, if he struggles with the physical aspects of the game. But I think a guy that good, that skilled, that experienced, been on the big stage with so much attention, I don't think some of those things will get to him, which can get to freshmen. And so I think he's going to be ready for this moment if and when, he decides to come to Indiana. So, I think if he does, quote unquote, disappoint, it'll be a guy whose freshman numbers still look a lot like, James Blackman Jr.'s, which Blackman averaged 15 points as a freshman, and people might be a little disappointed by that just because, if Romeo isn't, an All-American and first team All-Big Ten as a freshman, I think there might be some people, even if they don't say it, that are a little disappointed, but that's just in part because, maybe the expectations aren't realistic for a guy who's still going to be a freshman in high school. How much do you think Adidas has paid Romeo? Well, this is where I need to use my blue chips I got a bunch of blue chips clips that I can use for moments like this.
It was a fully loaded Lexus.
It was a nuclear surfboard, remember?
Give a kid a tractor?
I can't wait to pull those out during shows this year. Do you think Juwan will be back? Yes, I do believe Juwan will be back. Is it safe to say we played better defense without Duran? Yes, I certainly think in the immediate aftermath of Duran getting hurt, we did play better defense without Duran. And I think not having Duran out there made us more versatile defensively. But I think that underrates what Duran would have done in games against Michigan State and Purdue and against teams that had good big men. Duran's a pretty good defensive player when he's guarding guys on the blocks. He's got a pretty good block rate. You know, he's got pretty good hands. He gets steals. Like, he makes some things happen. It's kind of got to be the right matchup. You know, that's the thing with Duran is he is the most matchup dependent player on our roster. So I think, you know, on a good Indiana team, there might be games where Duran only plays 8 to 10 minutes because it's a bad matchup. And then there's other games where he gets out there for 22, 24 minutes because he's really able to take advantage. And so I think that is, you know, something Archie, I think, is going to have to be smart enough to recognize. And certainly, you know, Archie will be smart enough to recognize that.
I know what the job is.
Archie knows what the job is. He'll be able to do that. He doesn't need me to tell him that. But then it's obviously a role that Juwan or that Duran would have to be able to accept. And he strikes me as a guy who would be able to do that. Do you think the strength coach doctors before and after photos of players? No, I just think in some of the photos, it's a certain type of lighting and guys aren't flexing. And then in the other photos, you know, they're flexing, you know, and look like they just got done with a workout. I don't think that's doctoring them. I think it's just properly staging them to get the look that you want. What is the beer? I forget the name of it. I got it at Costco. It's an IPA. It comes in like 4 pint-sized bottles. I don't remember the name of it. I would have to go look and see. When I've seen Demizi, he reminds me of Troy. This is Scuba Jen. Awesome to see you here, Jen. Demizi and Troy. Demizi is not the athlete that Troy is. But I think in terms of how he looks a little bit, maybe when he runs and where it kind of feels like he's a little out of control and maybe some of the loose mechanics on his shot, I can see that. But he's a better shooter than Troy was, you know, coming in. There's no question about that. But Troy, much better athlete. You know, and Troy was a smarter basketball player than we gave him credit for, especially early. Now, the problem was I think there were things that he thought he could do because he was so athletic, and it led him to make bad decisions. But, you know, later in his career, you know, when he played focused, he did some pretty smart things on the basketball court. You know, as he matured. So I think if Demizi can have the impact that Troy had on the program, that would be huge. I don't know that Demizi will be that kind of player, but I really like him. I like his long-term potential. I just don't think he'll come in and play the role right away that Troy played. Because, you know, Troy was ready to step in and contribute as a freshman, in part, you know, because of his athleticism was just off the charts. And I don't think Demizi is quite at that level. She said never met a shot he didn't like. Well, yeah, I mean, Demizi's a shooter. That's what he's going to do. And he's confident in his shot. So why did is the video still working elsewhere? Or did the video stop? Did my video stop for anybody else? Let me see this here. It looks like, so this is a concern. Let me see, your mom buys beer at Costco. No, I bought beer at Costco. Will you guys let me know? Are you hearing the audio still? Frozen. Why is it frozen? All right, so this is good. I guess it's a good thing that we did this long. All right, so it's frozen. Why is it frozen? Huh. Interesting. Yeah, it's frozen here too. But can you still hear the audio? All right, so you can hear the audio. All right, this is awesome. Thank you all for letting me know this. I wonder why. Huh. So the audio is good. Okay, so yeah, no, I know I'm frozen. I'm trying to figure that out right now. Huh. Weird. Yeah, hearing. So there's audio, but there's no video. All right, let me see if I need to restart the stream, which would be a real pain in the neck. But this doesn't appear to be correcting itself. You look like you don't know what to do with your hands. Yes. All right, I'm going to try and